Hey, it's Rich back with you for another video in the OCR sales hangar. We're standing here by Citation M2. There's been a couple of recent business jet accidents in circling approaches. And so I wanted to take a minute and make a video on how that looks inside the airplane. And we're going to use an M2 today to show you. The key components here are in the G3000, Garmin gives you a approach speed cue, and it's a green donut on the airspeed tape, and what that represents is 1.3 times the stall speed, or VREF, and it takes into account configuration, weight, and G load. Flight Safety, Textron Aviation, in their training manual wants us to fly circling approaches at REF, or V approach, plus 10 knots. So that's what we're going to do today. And the components of a circling approach, the reason circling approaches get a little tricky and often are the source of these accidents is because on a normal approach, we're on a long, straight in, no turns, stabilized descent to the runway and land. Okay, so pretty straightforward, we're not making any turns. On a circling approach, if this is the runway, oftentimes we're coming in from, say, here, and then we make a turn here, we make another turn here, and then finally a turn to final. So what you have is landing configuration, and you have three places where there's turns. At low speed, at close to the ground, and often low visibility, and trying to maybe make a tight turn in order not to overshoot a runway. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the M2 in circling configuration, gear down, flaps approach. We're going to slow to V approach plus 10 knots, and we're going to make some turns, and we're going to see the green donut, what it does when we change these configurations and we make turns, and then we pull to decrease the radius of the turn, simulating trying to, you know, maybe if you're overshooting a little bit. And you'll see how the green donut moves, which is basically stall speed, and how it changes with these configurations. Pretty compelling when I saw it and focused on it. I'm going to take you up in the M2 and show you how this looks.
Clear for takeoff 3071, Sierra Yankee.
Power 657, if you can, keep your speed up to the runway.
Takeoff power. Engine instruments look good. Airspeed's alive, 70 knots. Looks good. There's V1. Positive rate. Gear goes up. Yeah, damper goes on. Climb power. Flaps.
Improved. Yes, could you lay off a good day? Tower, good afternoon. Cessna 491 Whiskey Sierra on the visual 30. Request circle 26 left, touching go able.
On Whiskey Sierra, on request, let's continue for now. November 44 Foxtrot, continue your downwind past the 605. I'll call your base turn.
Downwind past the 605, you'll call our base 44 Foxtrot.
November 31 Delta, maintain your slow speed, 31 Delta, slow speed.
We'll slow down 31 Delta.
Number 171 Sierra Yankee, traffic off your left, about 3 miles south on 1,700 is a Cessna. Connect, so go to Park, see it.
See ya, 71 Sierra Yankee. SoCal 71 Sierra Yankees climbing out of 1900 for 3000 and a turn to 180.
And 71 Sierra Yankee, second departure, radar Roger, and ident, where are you going to work?
Just requesting 7,500 feet over Catalina.
Okay, as we're climbing out here, I'm going to put in our speeds for landing data. We're going to land on runway 30 at Long Beach. There's the METAR. Runway confirmed. Configuration. It's all good. Landing data. So we're going to accept the speeds, and our V approach is 110. So per flight safety, we're going to use 120 as our circling speed.
That's V approach.
November 1 Sierra Yankee, contact SoCal 3435, I'll see ya.
3435, see ya.
November 7 Delta Sierra.
Okay, so again, V approach is how we're going to circle per the flight safety recommendations. That's flaps approach, gear down, and the speed is V approach plus 10. So we're going to use 120 as our circling speed. So we're going to slow to 120. All right, we're below our flaps approach speed, so we're going to put flaps out. We're below our gear speed, so I'm going to put gear down. And this is our circling configuration. And our target speed for the circle is V approach plus 10, which is 120. And now you can see coming in the green donut and the two speed references. VREF would be with full flaps, V approach is B with flaps 15. So we're going to be 10 knots above. Keep slowing here.
16,000, 1995, have a nice night, Southwest, 1909.
Number 967, contact SoCal 124.1.
And you can see the yellow on the tape coming, and then the red is the stall speed. There's 120 coming. Alright, so now let's say we've leveled out and we're adding some power to maintain 120. And we begin our circle. And so we're in heading mode. So as I make the turn to the first turn in the circle, the wings bank, and you'll notice the speed, stall speed coming up there, or the green donut coming up.
Maintain 14,000 when able, 280 knots.
Standard rate turn, 120 knots, configured the ref line, or the green donut, approach speed Q raised, and as the wings come level, now it's going to go back down. Now notice when the autopilot's on, those turns are pretty slow. So a circling approach and you're tight, the visibility's low, you want to keep the runway in sight, you might end up turning the autopilot off to make tighter turns in order to keep from going missed approach. So I'm going to turn the autopilot off, flight director stays up, I'm going to make a turn to the left. We're clearing the left now. Okay, now I'm going to turn, let's say I got to make a 90-degree turn, and watch as I bank, and I get a little bit heavier bank than standard rate because I need to make a tighter turn. Now look at, that takes some aft elevator to maintain my altitude, my speed, but now look at the VREF bug. And as I pull in the turn, look what happens. Look at it now. Okay, it goes way above where I'm at and I approach the stall speed. Now as I roll wings level, the bug comes down, and at 120 knots I'm back in the game. Okay, but the point is, my view is these guys turn the autopilot off because they know they need to make a tighter turn. If they do a turn with the heading mode in the autopilot, it's going to be too wide of a turn, and therefore they're going to overshoot the runway and likely go missed approach. So again, I'm going to demonstrate what happens. Okay, we make our turn, we're turning to the runway, and we need to keep the runway in sight, and we're overshooting a little bit, so we bank harder, and we start to pull to maintain altitude and decrease the radius of the turn, and look at the green donut and look at the stall speed. They come way up there. That's where you get in trouble. You throw into the mix a swept wing jet with higher speeds, and it could get even worse. So that green donut, like I said, in my opinion, is an interesting reference to see how stall speed is affected by bank and load. And it's pretty dramatic. I mean, I'm not pulling that hard, and I've been in those situations where you make a tight turn and you got the runway in sight and you see that you're overshooting, and almost subconsciously you bank and you pull, and as that happens, again, the stall speed goes way up and it only takes a little bit of distraction, and you exceed it. Now you're only 500-600 feet, 800 feet off the ground, and in a business jet's not enough to recover. And I think it happens pretty quick in the swept wing jets. And this is a straight wing Citation, and he's still pretty pronounced the way the stall speed changes. Anyway, so that's the way it looks. I'm going to clean the airplane up now. And we're going to go back to Long Beach, and I'm going to do one other thing that I see as I train people in these airplanes sometimes in the instrument approaches is the transition from GPS Nav to an initial approach fix to an ILS. So we're going to load the ILS 30 here at Long Beach. We're going to do the ILS 30. We're going to do it via ESKIL, load and activate, and we're going to hit nav, and we're going to go transition this from GPS initial approach fix onto the final and watch the autopilot and the flight director do the approach automatically, and we don't have to do any switching of any.
Citation here, Yankee. You guys heading back somewhere now?
Hey, firm, just made the turn. We'd like to go direct to ESKIL for a ILS 30 at Long Beach. ESKIL 4,000, so I'm going to set 4,000 on the altitude selector, and I'm going to arm VNAV, and we're going to take this VNAV down to the approach, and VNAV is going to capture here in just a second. Now I haven't activated the approach yet, so now I can arm the approach because I was cleared for the approach. I want to do that, and then if you look here, localizer, glide slope are armed, but we're in green. We're in a magenta needle, so it's still using GPS to navigate to ESKIL. And then we'll go to Lucig, and then we'll make that turn inbound on the localizer. It'll be a GPS course, and then it's going to switch to green needles. So if this is set up properly, I'm essentially done other than configuring the airplane and speed control. I've already put my speeds up from when we were doing our little stall speed demo there. So I'm on a V path down now to 4,000 at ESKIL, 3,000 at Lucig, 1,600 at Gunny, which is the final approach fix. There's my 200 knots for my first notch flaps. I'm going to put those in. And also you can see on the G3000, and I believe on NXI it has the same thing. We have, I think they're referred to as ghost needles. We have a ghost glide slope and a localizer. Speed's coming back. And we're going to go ahead and put now 3,000, or actually we're going to put 1,600 in the altitude selector, which is the altitude at Gunny. Okay, so coming up on another turn to final here at Lucig at 3,000. Again, we're still in GPS. So then you can watch as we make the turn here. You can see we're right on glide slope because the green needle is, or the ghost glide slope is right centered. And then we're joining. So I've done no configurations with the, or no changes to the FMS. I've just loaded the approach via the initial approach fix, and here we go. They're switched automatically to the green needles. Glide slope's captured and localizer's captured.
Yankee Long Beach Tower 119.4.
19.4, Roger. 71 Yankee. So now we're on both localizer and glide slope. It did it automatically, and it seems to me that in training environment, when I'm training people on the G3000 in this airplane, there's kind of I don't know, low confidence, or people are a little bit afraid to wait for that to happen, and they switch it, in manually.
3 Foxtrot.
Okay, I'm a couple miles from the final approach fix here, so I'm going to put the gear down.
You're flying a midfield downwind. You're supposed to go to the Queen Mary. Then
I'm going to set my power.
You're trying to follow
As the gear comes down, the speed comes back into the flap landing flap range, which I want to do over the final approach fix.
I don't know what you're doing, sir. You need to make a right turn and fly westbound.
There we are.
Turning right, Foxtrot Romeo. And we're not at Tango Alpha. Just maintain that above your present. Not at Tango Alpha. Give me a right 360. Left 360. Make it a left.
Localizer and glide slope.
Left 360.
There's the final approach fix. Speed checks for the landing flaps. Landing flaps come in.
Correction 379 Tango Alpha.
And I got my power set about where I want it for
Foxtrot Romeo, extend down.
for the stabilized approach. And now we've descended out of the final approach fix altitude. I'm going to put in the missed approach altitude. Speed's coming back. So a lot of it with these automated systems is anticipating and knowing what's going to happen and have the confidence to know that you've configured the FMS properly and it's going to do what you expect it to do. And this is a straight-in stabilized approach. We've made that one kind of sweeping turn to final versus a circling approach where, you know, we're making multiple turns, again, at a slow airspeed, close to the ground, in a landing configuration, often distracted with tighter turns, you know, reference to the airport.
Traffic, 12 o'clock. Same altitude,
And
1 mile.
And I take off. I don't know if I had you do it left 360, but I really don't know what you're doing. But you're going to follow a Cessna that's heading to your right at 1,000 there, eastbound. And there is a citation directly below you at 700.
379 Tango Alpha, did our left 360 and now we're re-entering the downwind. Is that good?
No, it's not good, but just follow that Cessna off your right at 1,000 eastbound, please.
500. Traffic, 11 o'clock.
Romeo, turn
High,
base.
less than 1 mile.
Okay, he's
594, turn crosswind.
okay, gears down, flaps are land, speeds are coming in.
Heading crosswind 990.
Number 2 Tango Alpha, fly runway heading on your left turn, runway 26 left, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 26 left, 2 Tango Alpha.
Number 3 Foxtrot Romeo, runway 26 left, clear to land. November 3 Foxtrot Romeo, runway 26.
Okay, and there's the autopilot coming off.
3 Foxtrot. 9 Tango Alpha, number 2, following us Cessna off your left on base, runway 26.
Holding the glide slope down.
26 left, clear to land, 379 Tango Alpha.
Longwood Tower, Cessna 67844, just departed.
There's a ref at 50 feet.
One landing for runway 26 wide with information Charlie.
November 67844 Long Beach Tower, enter, correction, make right to traffic, runway 26 right.
Make right waiting for runway 26 wide, 67844.
Any character 303, that's holding short 26 left here, left 22 ridge.
Hold it short at 26 left, that was unreadable, say again.
Okay, back in the hangar after that quick flight in the M2, and hopefully you understand the emphasis I'm trying to make on what happens on a circling approach and potentially multiple turns associated with it, low visibility, low to the ground, low airspeed, and the turns with the bank and potentially pulling to decrease the radius of the turn can all add up to a bad situation, and we saw that with a couple of recent business jet crashes. And so I thought it was worth re-emphasizing again. When I saw the green donut, and I've been watching that thing for years, but you know, when you focus on it in the turn and pulling a little bit and see how much the stall speed goes up, it was pretty compelling and something to maybe bring into your scan a little bit or be cognizant of, and perhaps contemplate even doing circling approaches. I've been flying for a long time and haven't done that many circling approaches, especially if there's a lot of turns associated with it. Anyway, it's something to think about. I hope you got something from the video, and thanks for watching.